You describe your book as a counter-narrative to Dee Brown's 1970 history, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. What was your reaction the first time you read it?
My reaction to Dee Brown's book was pretty complicated because I first read the book in 1990 when I was in college, which is the 100th anniversary of the massacre at Wounded Knee Creek. And my reactions were super complicated. On one hand, I felt good, I felt happy that somebody would devote so much time and energy and sympathy to thinking about our history, our past. And so I felt lifted up, and on the other hand, I felt sort of shoved in my grave, because on the very first page of his book, he says that my book is about the West and about the Plains, and I focus on the Plains Wars, and I start in 1850 and I end in 1890 at the massacre at Wounded Knee, where the culture and civilization of the American Indian was destroyed. So I felt, like I said, lifted up, and I felt shoved in my grave with the premature announcement of our collective death. And that complicated feeling stayed with me as I grew into becoming a writer and as I moved into nonfiction, and I realized that what I needed personally, and hopefully what other people needed, was a follow-up and counter-narrative. A book that explored the ways in which we've been living for the past 128 years, the ways we've been succeeding, the ways that we have made our own history, and a book that talked about the ways in which, we remain active and vital rather than just ghosts that haunt the American landscape. And so I felt that I needed to follow up his book, but I felt like it needed to be a counter-narrative, not just a counter-history. I didn't just want to write a book with alternate dates and different names and different facts. I needed something that was the opposite of the tragic telling of Native lives that is Dee Brown's book, and by extension, that is the dominant way that people have of telling Indian stories. And to me, that counter-narrative couldn't just be a story of hope, because hope is just the other side of the tragic coin. It's the same old thing. A counter-narrative to me is, well, tragedy to me, I should say, is a way of telling stories that turns us, at least, into statistics, turns our past into statistics and our lives into a condition. And so the opposite of that is a story of complexity and depth and layers and texture. I mean, because that's really at the heart of the human experience, are all these contradictions that live through us. So I start in 1890 where Dee Brown stopped, and I bring the story of American Indian life up to the present as best I can.